and a very good morning to all of you. It's Thursday, the 18th of April, and I'm actually doing the show after a whole good week, and it's definitely nice to be back. But most importantly, I'm doing the show for the first time after the new year. So before I go any further, I would really like to wish you all a very, very, very happy Sinhala and Tamil New Year. Having said that, my name is Vasam Ismail, and you are watching Good Morning Sri Lanka on NTV Sports. Now, of course, during the last week, we've not been getting the, the nicest news. Actually, we've been getting news which people can actually be a little upset about. There are earthquakes going on in Iran. We've been getting news about the tense situation in South Korea and in North Korea. There was a bomb that went off in Boston and Bangalore. And of course, there is this threat of bird flu that is going around in China. And later on during the show, I will be talking to you a little bit about that as well. Now, we as human beings, we tend to get a little upset when we listen to these kind of stories, and of course it is because we as human beings around the world, we like to be living in a world free of wars, free of terror, a world full of peace, prosperity, a world free of destruction, whether it is natural or otherwise, a world which is free of bigotry, racism and other things. And actually I have a beautiful post which a famous comedian put up on Facebook that talks a little bit about this. It's a beautiful post. It has got over 300,000 likes and over 220 shares, and it's actually from a famous comedian who is Patton Oswalt. Now, if you don't know who it is, if you watched a movie called Ratatouille, he is the person who voices Remy the rat. So I'm going to share this post to you because I find it quite interesting and something I thought that everybody would like to hear. So actually I'm going to read out the story to you, where comedian actor Patton Oswalt may not seem the most likely person to soothe the wounded national psyche after the deadly bombings that struck the Boston Marathon. Now, Oswalt has no obvious ties to Boston, and he makes a living telling jokes, not comforting the afflicted. But Oswalt's eloquent thoughts about the attacks, which he posted Monday afternoon to his Facebook page, have been widely passed around the internet as an inspiring testament to humankind's inherent goodness in the face of evil. Now he says, I remember when 9/11 went down, my reaction was, well, I've had it with humanity, but I was wrong, wrote Oswalt. Now, best known as the voice of Remy the rat from Ratatouille, as I said, and for playing Spencer on TV's The King of Queens, he goes on to say, this is a giant planet, and we're lucky to live on it. We're lucky to live on it, but there are prices and penalties incurred for the daily miracle of existence. One of them is every once in a while the wiring of a tiny silver of the species getting snarled, and they are pointed towards darkness, he wrote. But the vast majority stands against that darkness, and like white blood cells attacking a virus, they dilute and weaken and eventually wash away the evildoers and, more importantly, the damage they wreak. This is beyond religion or creed or nation. We would not be here if humanity were inherently evil. We'd have eaten ourselves alive long time ago. So when you spot violence or bigotry or intolerance or fear or just garden variety misogyny, hatred or ignorance, just look in the eye and think, the good outnumber you, and we always will. Something I found beautiful and inspiring, and of course relevant to the times of the world. It is something that I thought which is really inspiring indeed, so I thought I would share that with you. And of course we've got some interesting content for this morning's show which I will be presenting to you, and one of it is this little video which I want you to check out, which actually is in Yemen. Check it out.
Yemen's world-renowned honey making looks as though it may have the potential to become one of the leading industries in the country. In the capital city of Sana'a, there are 200 or 300 honey stores. 3 or 5 stores can be seen on one street in some areas. Many people buy honey from here. They eat it themselves or give it to others as gifts. The honey in Yemen is famous throughout the world for its traditional and natural way of making. Many foreigners like to buy our honey. Muhammad Qaid said honey sold mostly in jars, and a 400 to 500 gram jar cost about $15. Honey is popular in Gulf countries for its great nutritional and medicinal values. The booming honey business is bringing large profits to beekeepers. Muhammad Saleh, a beekeeper in suburban area, said the cost of keeping bees is relatively low. I began to keep bees 4 years ago, and I have earned enough money to feed my family. I can make about 4 million riyals a year and sometimes even more. According to the local agriculture ministry, the number of people engaging in the honey business increased to 100,000 in 2012 from only 7,000 in the 1990s. Yemen's annual honey output of 5,000 tons brings in more than $80 million of income. Mohammed Jami, an analyst of the Economy and Media Research Center in Sana'a, said the honey business is expected to become a major source of revenue for the country in the future, similar to oil.
Of course, when I even hear the sound of bees, or even if I see it visually, I tend to get irritated. So I sincerely hope if you were watching the little bees running around, you weren't too irritated. But of course, as you saw, Yemen is world renowned for its honey. But now it seems that it could also be a very, very potential industry that could come up way more than it was in Yemen. Now, I've got the next one, of course, is a trailer which I want to play to you, but this is a little special to me personally, because I am a huge fan of DC Comics, and by saying that, I'm also a huge fan of Superman. And of course, the trailer which we will be showing you is the Man of Steel. Now, if you don't know about the movie that's coming up, you would have heard of Christopher Nolan, who was the director of the Dark Knight trilogy, the whole Batman series, which also falls under DC Comics, and he will actually be producing the movie that is coming up. And of course, when we say Superman movies and stuff, the first thing that reminds us is the old movies with Christopher Reeves, and then later on there was a movie that did come up which was kind of a flop, so I'm not going to talk to you too much about that, but I sincerely hope that this would be way better. I have a lot of expectations for it, especially because Christopher Nolan is involved, and without further ado, check out the trailer.
The world's too big, Mom. Then make it small. Focus on my voice. Pretend it's an island out in the ocean. Can you see it? I see it. My son was in the bus. He saw what Clark did.
You have to keep this side of yourself a secret.
What was I supposed to do? Just let him die?
Maybe. I have so many questions. Where do I come from? You just have to decide what kind of man you want to grow up to be, Clark. Whoever that man is going to change the world.
If the world found out who I really was, they'd reject me. He was convinced that the world wasn't ready. What do you think?
Watching that video, I actually got a little bit of goosebumps for several reasons. One is the fact that I am a huge fan of Superman as a character, Clark Kent as a character. I love the characters in the movie, Lois Lane, Zod, all of them. And also, if you've noticed in the beginning of the trailer, you would have heard a little bit of the soundtrack which was actually played for the movie Gladiator. And actually, when I did a little bit of research on this, it's because they haven't really, at the point that they did release this trailer, they hadn't really finalized what the final scores were for this particular trailer. And of course, Gladiator was a beautiful movie too. Just listening to a little bit of that soundtrack gave me goosebumps. Now, Man of Steel is an upcoming American superhero film directed by Zack Snyder and produced by Christopher Nolan, as I said earlier. And the movie is scripted by David S. Goyer, based on the DC Comics character Superman. The film will be a reboot of the Superman film series portraying the character's original story, and the film stars Henry Cavill in the title role with Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Michael Shannon as General Zod, Diane Lane as Martha Kent, Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, and Russell Crowe as Jor-El. And the Man of Steel will also launch a shared fictional universe of DC Comics characters of the film. And as I just read out to you, it seems like we have an amazing star cast lined up for the movie. Having said that, we're going to go in for a short break, and we're going to come back with lots more interesting content that I will be sharing with you. So stay tuned and don't go away. We'll be right back after this break.